Hey, how's it going? Ezekiel the Barber back with another barber tutorial for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Today's haircut, we have a half on the side, which is known as a half on the side, and a small trim off the top. Today's client also has a picture, so we'll try to get as close to this picture as we possibly can. So here's the picture here. All right, that's kind of the look that we're going for. So all right, so there's the before on top, and that's what we're going for on the bottom. And you are in Lakerland with some Laker fans. Always a big Kobe fan, so RIP to my man Kobe. Well, let's get started, guys. So this is a little before, me and my guy here. This is a side shot. All right, and then just a little back angle, and then another side angle for you, just to kind of get a view of everything there. All right, so first I like to start combing everything down, as you can see here. And since this client does have quite a bit of hair, I do like to cut with a clean palette. Since I know I'm gonna go down all the way to a half, I just wanna use this 3.5 to just go all the way around, get as much hair off as I possibly can to kind of set up my haircut. So I like to pull that ear out of the way. And then just take that 3.5 and pretty much go all the way up to around the parietal ridge area. That's the area that I'm going up to now. So I'm just going right around. All right, little fast forwarded frames for you there for the sake of time. All right, so now that my palette's a lot cleaner, I know that I'm going to do a shorter haircut for this client than this 3.5. I wanted to get a lot of that hair off so that I have a cleaner palette to work with. So here we are now. Things look a little better. There's still a little bit more hair in the area where I plan to put the hard part, so I just want to get a little bit of that hair out with that 3.5 metal as well. So you see me using the comb, pulling the hair away that I don't want to cut, basically shaping the hair going into the top of his hair. So here I am here, just making sure that palette's really clean. Now, as you see, I'm just going straight up with that clipper, using, once again, the 3.5 metal. These are the techniques, going straight up. So I'm not going too high because we are going to use that hair on the top. All right. So everything looks good here. It's kind of clear that we can go on to the next step. So this is where he wants a half, which is also known as the OA. So the OA and the half, basically, that is the same thing. So we're gonna take that half, basically where you see where I have the comb there, kind of using that guideline. And that's right in the area where I like to start that first guideline. Now you can always go up, but of course you can't put that hair back, so that's why I like to start lower, in case I ever need to bring the fade up, but of course you can't bring the fade down, so it's kind of a security measure. Now you see me here also pulling the ear, another critical security measure. Right. Now you also see me using the corners of the clippers to get in the hard to get areas. So sometimes all of the teeth, of course, can't cut certain areas, so you'll just use the corners of the clippers, just 2 or 3 teeth to cut certain areas that are hard to get to. All right, eventually we'll go to some fast forwarded frames for the sake of time. Here we are now. And my number one objective here is just to ensure and make sure that I get clean guidelines, as you see me cutting from different angles, especially in the neck area. The hair definitely grows different in that area, so I like to go in certain areas that allow me to cut against the grain to make sure that everything's even. All right, so I'll go over it a few times, pretty much everywhere. Any areas that I see that are dark, I'll go over those areas just to make sure that everything's even. Now, if it sounds rhetorical, it's because you're pretty much gonna go over things quite a few times just to make sure everything really is that even. Okay, so since there is quite a bit of hair on the top, we did plan on trimming some off anyway, so I decided to start, taking a little bit off the top instead of going to my next guideline. So here we are now, spraying a little bit of water on top. I have my shears. We just want to find out kind of where he wants to be. I need to be as close to this top length as possible, so I'll take a little bit off the top just to get him as close to this look as I possibly can. Alright, so here we go. So we put a little water on top, which allows us to identify the guidelines a lot easier. So I normally give my client the mirror, allow them to be in on this process, kind of let me know kind of where they want to be. Now, a lot of times the client does know kind of in the area of where they want it. We're just looking to agree on a length here. All right, looks like we found it. It looks to me pretty close to what the picture looks like, so we'll start there. Now, it's always a good idea to leave more hair in case you need to take more off. Of course, you can't ever put it back, so I am somewhat of a conservative cutter. So I just follow that guideline and follow that all the way around. Now, definitely don't try this at home if you're not a professional barber or hairstylist or someone that has gone to school or has had years of training. So, though it looks easy, it's definitely hard for a lot of individuals. But with the proper training and education, of course, anything can look easy. Alright, so we're just going to follow that guideline all the way around. Now I like to cut north, south, east and west, vertical, horizontal, whatever you choose. But the basis is to make sure that you cover everything and, try to make everything as even as possible. So that's basically what I'm doing here, just going over my work, pulling that hair up, finding that guideline, cutting from different angles, just making sure that everything from every angle is even. So as you see me spray a little bit more water, just want to definitely keep the hair moist. So just looking to find out what hair has been cut, what hair hasn't been cut. So this is basically how I do that. Alright. Fast forward the frames there for you. So once again, I just comb through the hair, basically seeing what still needs to be even. Definitely want to take your time with this process. Want to make sure all the hair from pretty much every angle is pretty much even for the desired length, of course. Alright, so since we got a little bit of hair out of his way, we can go ahead and go back to the fade now. So I'm gonna go by using the number 1 guard with that lever all the way open. Then we're gonna set our next guideline. So I'll go about 1/8 of an inch up. And we'll do this pretty much all the way around. Another good thing is, oftentimes when I do things like work with the shears on top, I'll make sure that that clipper is right back on the charger. It only has about 90 minutes of runtime. So to kind of get around this, whenever you're doing other various jobs, it's always a good idea to keep those cordless clippers right back on the charger. Just, ensures that you're able to get the job done, as well as have the power necessary to finish the haircut. Alright, so here we're going to go to the number 2 guard. We're going to use that lever all the way open. Alright, and then we're just going to go straight up. I don't want to dig in to the top of his hair to take that hair away because we basically want to save that hair. So we're just going to use a straight up motion. Now on this channel, I definitely plan on giving you all various techniques from cutting from top to bottom, bottom to top, cutting with guards, metal clips, clipper over comb techniques, a bunch of techniques that just shows you that you could pretty much use whatever technique that you want, whatever tool that you have. You should be able to achieve really clean haircuts as long as you're going through the right process. Alright, so you see me here still using that number 2 guard going straight up. Now, on this side, since the picture did have a hard part, I do want to start prepping for that hard part. So you see me pulling the hair out of the way, just kind of carving out where that hard part's gonna be. Now, he didn't necessarily want a ledge. Some clients like the ledge, and I'll leave that. In this case, this client didn't want a lot of hair left where the part's going to be. So I just basically want to take that as tight as I possibly can, as long as it still blends into that number 2. So that's why I'm still using that number 2 on top, but just taking it as tight as I possibly can in that area. All right, now as you see me back to the corded version instead of the cordless version, that is just a part of the process. So definitely tool management. I love the master clippers. They are definitely excellent clippers. This is the second clipper that I actually learned how to cut hair on. First was initially a wall designer clipper. So I definitely have love for, Wall, Andes, even Oster. I mean, these are definitely some of the more prolific products and producers of the clipper and haircutting industry, as well as Babyliss and Conair, or Conair and Babyliss, whatever you say, same thing, tomato, but definitely appreciate the technology and the difference in the technology as well. So some of these haircuts will look slightly different based off of the metals used or the way they design these clippers. So that's what I do appreciate. The fact that I could use one brand, I could mix and match brands, I could basically do whatever I want with my art. All right, so we're gonna start with that clipper lever all the way open. We're trying to bump out that bottom line, going from the half into the 1 that we just used. So since we used the 1 guard, I'm cutting down, so I basically wanna use the number 1 open. And this is really going to allow us to fade downwards going into the half, in which that's the first initial guideline that we set. So now, if I use that master's halfway open, as you see me doing here, that's taking it to a half. That's the equivalent to a half. All the way open is a 1. All the way closed is a triple. So we don't want to use this clipper all the way closed, but I definitely want to stay within the range of that half going into that number 1. So that's basically what you see me doing here. Now, whenever I look to bald things out, say in a taper or a bald fade or a bald taper in the back, then of course I'll close that lever all the way up. All right, so basically just working my way all the way around. Now here, since everything's not all the way bald, he doesn't want a bald taper. He basically wanted a half, so that half is still going to leave a little bit of hair. So to make things a lot cleaner, I just wanted to square off his sideburns in his desired area. All right, and so we're just gonna continue on with that open lever all the way around. So now I'm going to the 0 guard. Now we've used the OA to the number 2, then back to the number 1. So now, just to kind of bring everything together, I'm going to that 0 guard in the range where I would basically use that 0 guard. So you see it kind of below that 1, above that OA, right in the region that this guard is specifically meant for. So that's basically what we're doing here. Now, sometimes I like to start with the clipper lever all the way open. The more that I'm transitioning into the top, the closer that I get to the bottom of that true length, I'll just close that lever all the way up. And that's basically what you see me doing here. That lever's all the way closed. Getting the closest, most true length out of that guard that I can. Once again, not taking that too high, just staying in the region that this guard was specifically meant for. All right, and so here I'm just attacking the bottom line, kind of where we would use that half size guard. All right, finally that fade is coming together a little bit better now, so a little bit more evident to see. Now we'll just show you a quick glimpse of how things were going. All right, and then this is how things are currently going, trying to bring the haircut together a little better. Now, sometimes as you get closer to finishing up your fade, you'll see various areas that you want to go back and clean up. In this case, I've used a half, a 1, a number 2 guard. So wherever I use those guards, I'll simply go back and attempt to clean things up in those regions. Another really good reason why I like to use guidelines. With guidelines, you're able to go back to the desired length that you're looking for. Now, sometimes you can definitely get lost in haircuts. You kind of don't know where you use a certain length, and then the haircut kind of can become a tragedy. That's basically why guidelines were created, to basically help you keep track, keep every length in uniform. And it's a really good system to use to new learners, just to educate them on the process. So that's why I chose to use this process. However, the longer you cut hair, the easier you'll understand kind of how hair works and what length you need to use in certain areas. All right, so here you just see me going over the number 1 guard, attempting to make things that much more cleaner. Saw some dark areas that I kind of wanted to see if I could work out a little better. Then back to the number 2 guard, keeping the hair out of the way that I plan to keep. And just smoothing everything out with that number 2 guard. Now here you see me using the Oster Topaz clipper. I do like to use this clipper as kind of like a change up. See if I can create a better fade. So clippers do give you slightly different looks. So this is the look that we were going for. All right, so we definitely have to put that hard part in there. I probably won't go as thick with my hard part. I'll try to stay a little thinner normally. Every barber's different. It's all preference and whatever your client wants as well. So it's just art. But normally I like to make thinner hard parts. All right, so we're still using the Oster Topaz. I'm using that half guard to try to work that side out a little bit better, try to get that area a little bit more smoother. I saw some dark areas that I wanted to try to work out there, so wanted to see if I can get that. And so far it seems to be working well. Now it looks like I put that number 1 guard up and going just a little higher, just attempting once again to clean things up a little bit better. Now as you can see, you do go over areas quite a bit. But that fade's kind of coming together a lot better now, so it looks a lot better to me. Hopefully he likes it. All right, so now it's about time to get that hard part in. So I just kind of like to first get a first look and see where I anticipate putting everything. I like to spray a little bit of water to kind of keep the hair separated, keep everything together away from the part area. It makes for cleaner parts, so that's like a barber technique that I definitely like to use. So once I wet the hair, I'll just part it. Now I'll check with my client just to make sure that it's in the area that he wants it. You can always kind of bring those partings up or down. Water, once again, makes it a lot easier. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start putting that hard part in. So I'm using the Andis cordless clipper with the outliner blade, not the T outliner blade, so it's just an outliner, just a square blade there. That's the one that I chose to use on this particular hard part, though you could use pretty much any trimmer that works for you. Now you see me every now and then periodically like to comb any hair away that I cut, just to see how wide that part is. I don't want to make that hard part any wider than I really want it to be. Sometimes that can happen, so you have to be really cautious. Always brush hair or comb hair away. Now you see a ledge here. Some clients like to have a ledge. Some clients like to get rid of it. In this case, this client definitely does not want a hard ledge, and it's all preference. So this is how I get rid of that ledge. I'll do a little clipper over comb, and I'll basically customize it to their liking. Now the clipper over comb is a really good technique. That's why I like to use it to kind of customize how much I take off in areas such as this. It's really perfect. Now this is a little freehand technique. A lot harder to keep a consistent hand doing techniques such as this. So I always advise clipper over comb because you have the protection of the comb. In this case, you really have no protection. So if you err or you have fidgety or shaky hands or a really nervous person, anything like that, you might just want to stick to that clipper over comb route, which is still a really good safe route. But sometimes I do feel the need to just do a little freehand. All right, now back to the clipper over comb. Definitely like to use that technique in this area. All right. Oh wait, what's that? Oh, okay. So it looks like my man's looking to customize that area a little bit more. So this is his haircut. He has a preference. It's a little darker than he likes in this area. So now we're just gonna work that down a little bit more. I'm going with the number 2 metal with the Oster Octane clipper. And then I'm just gonna take that 2 real tight in this area. So right in that area where the hard part is, that's known as the parietal ridge. So we'll just go ahead and try to get things a little tighter in there for him, keeping that hair out of the way so I don't cut that. All right, so it's looking pretty much the way he likes it. I want to smooth things out a little bit better. So that's what I'm doing here. So as a barber, a lot of times that's basically what you're gonna do. You're basically customizing the haircut for the liking of the client. Now we have used a number of clippers, the corded Andis Masters, the cordless Andis Masters, the cordless Andis trimmers, the cordless Babyliss trimmers that I'm basically using in this case. I've also used the Oster Topaz. I've used the Oster Octane with the number 2. So I've literally used so many different clippers on this haircut. So it really doesn't matter. I use these clippers because they were basically go-tos for what I needed to do for this haircut. Now, did I really need to use all of these different clippers on this one haircut? Absolutely not. I could have used the Masters or this Wall Seniors. Other clippers too. But this is what I felt, was necessary for me to achieve the look and get it done efficiently. So that was just the way that I chose to work. So every barber's different. That's what I do appreciate about the barbering industry and the clippers and the choice of what you want to use to do the job. All right, so here I'm using the Babyliss Pro trimmer. Just doing the lineup a little bit here. Now, since this is a half, it's not a 000 or a 60 on the bottom of his fade. So there is gonna be a little bit of stubble and hair left. So that's what I'm able to line up. It just makes things look a little bit cleaner. Now, if there was no hair there and things were bald, it is what it is. I wouldn't have to worry about lining anything up. Right on. So also right here, just lining everything up, cleaning off any of those forehead hairs that sometimes you just can't see. So that's what you see me doing here. All right, so just cleaning everything up. All right, so that looks basically finally coming together, guys. We're quite a ways from where we started. Just want to do on the left side exactly what we did on the right, keep everything even. And I also want to just clean up that part area a little bit better. So basically the closer that I get to the finishing product, I like to just go over everything, clean it up, make everything look that much more better. All right, a little closer or a lot closer to that finished product. So here's the half stubble fade. So taper in the back, square off the sides, half going into a number 2, and then we did shear work on the top. So basically here, just looking to finish my lineup work. Once again, since it is a half, it's not completely bald, so I am lining up the back, so you can see the demarcation of the line I just put, and you'll also be able to see it on this side. Now, it doesn't appear to be a lot of hair there, but you still should be able to line it up if it's a half. It just makes things look a lot cleaner. And then clean behind the ears, pull that ear, keep it out of the way of the blade, and just going over all of my steps pretty quick, just making sure everything's nice and even. All right, so everything's looking pretty good here, guys. It's pretty much wrapping up the cut. All right, everything looks pretty good. So I just want to finish with some texturizing. There was some texture in that haircut, so this is basically how I add that texture. So I'm using the comb, the texturizing shears, which basically cut every other hair, so that's how you get that texture. So they have the jagged edges. And this is basically how I control that. Now you could just do the tips, you can do halfway, you could, go a lot lower. You have a lot of control with the, the shear over comb technique. So that's what I'm basically using here, just adding a little bit more texture into this haircut for him, trying to get it as close to that picture as possible. Alright guys, so I like to take the time to give a shout out to my guy here for allowing me to demonstrate this haircut for you guys. So here is a before, so shout out to my guy, thank you so much.
Thank you, my man, thank you. Appreciate you,
You know who you are.
Yes, sir.
Alright, and that's pretty much it for today's haircut. You are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Leave some likes, share, subscribe. Hopefully it's definitely educated you in some way, shape, or form, or even entertained you. So hopefully you guys got a chance to read that sign on the lower left. Good hair isn't by accident, it's by appointment. So find you a barber or hairstylist near you and get that good hair. Take care.